we will, I can stop and answer anything. So to start, we're going to start by making the actual gnocchi dough. If you haven't got 00 flour, it's not a problem at all. 00 is basically a really fine flour. It's the flour that you usually use to make pasta. It does affect the bite slightly, but really not a problem, especially with gnocchi. So plain flour will do, or 00 flour. So we're going to start in the mixing bowl with 70 grams. This is going to make enough for 2 people. So 70 grams of that. And then I'm going to go straight in with the ricotta. If you haven't drained your ricotta, quickly give it a drain in a sieve, as I said, with kitchen paper, and then chuck this straight in as well. And then to this, we're going to add the cheese. I've already grated the cheese. I'm going to leave some as well for the top. So I'm going to put most of it in. I should have used a clear mixing bowl really, that would have been much cleverer, but there we go, you can see what's going on. And an egg. I've said like an egg loosely because all eggs are different, so I've got 1 medium egg. I might need to add more flour, but that's the nature of pasta. You can add or take away depending on what you need. So I'm going to add the whole thing, and then if I need to add more flour, I can add more flour easily. So add that in there. Then I'm going to season. Now the thing with pasta is usually it's the water that you want to season, not the pasta. So lots of pasta recipes have no salt in them. This one I'm going to put a bit of salt, but also I've salted the pasta water really well. And the way that you should test apparently is to taste it, and it should taste like the sea. So just keep adding and don't be afraid. I think one of the things that home cooking you kind of think about is, oh god, I feel like I'm putting a lot of salt into this, but a lot of it, I mean the gnocchi only cooks for a couple of minutes, so it's actually not soaking up into it as much as it would if you were kind of cooking it for half an hour, for say. There's a really good program on Netflix called Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which probably everyone's already seen, but she describes how to use salt really cleverly. So like depending on how long you're cooking for, you can add the salt. So I had less or more salt, so good tip. I'm going to add some nutmeg in here as well. I really like nutmeg, so you can be generous with it. But also, it doesn't really need it as well. You can do some really simple gnocchi, and it's got a lot of flavour from the ricotta. The ricotta has got a nice saltiness as well, so it's great. And as I said, a little pinch of light sea salt flakes because they are not too strong and they've got a nice flavour. And I never find that I oversalt with sea salt flakes, no matter how much I put in, which is strange. So now I'm going to start mixing the dough. It's a really nice dough as well. It's really like pillowy. I think the thing with gnocchi is that it can be really, if you overwork it, it can be really tough and really chewy. The good thing about making gnocchi with ricotta is that the ricotta keeps it really moist, and then when you eat it, it's got a nice pillowy texture. So it's already coming together now into a dough with very little work. Another tip is to make sure that you do not overwork it, because no one wants to overwork their dough. Like when it comes to pasta, making pasta is fine, but when it's gnocchi, you want it to be really, really... I've just seen, hi Jaya, how you doing? Yeah, you want to not work it too much. So now I've got this nice kind of, it looks like scrambled eggs. I want to basically roll it out, and I already can see that I need to add more flour, which is absolutely fine, and that's why it's a guideline, because it completely depends on how much water there is in your ricotta, how much water there is in, like how big your egg is. So I'm just trying to move everything around. So now I'm just taking it into a bowl, using the flour to bring it together. Okay. Now, you don't want to keep adding flour. It's a bit of a sticky dough, and it's absolutely fine. It feels like stickier than, say, pasta dough. So before I put it onto my board, I want to make sure that I put a lot of flour down, because that is important. There we go. So I'm just bringing it together, but I'm not overworking it. You want it to be like a kind of a smooth dough. And then if you look at that, it's really soft. So I'm going to keep going slightly, and then I think we're pretty much there. I'm not going to keep going it on anymore. But what I want to do is make my gnocchi shapes, and this is where you need more flour. There we go. So you can do it in different ways. Sometimes people roll it out into a sausage and then cut it so you get the little squares. But what we do at Alicia is I just take like a little, maybe walnut sized piece, and then roll it like that into a ball, and then put it down. Carry on with the rest of it. As I said at the beginning, this will make enough for 2 people, although you can really eat a lot of gnocchi. I could eat all of this. So I'm going to keep going, making these. If anyone's got any questions, let me know. And in work, we made a load of like gnocchi for people. People really like enjoy them. I think gnocchi and dumplings, another really good one to make at home. And it's the sort of thing you can get out of the freezer and like really quickly have a dinner that's really delicious. So they're very good. I think I can see why they're so popular. So there we go. If you can see there, we've got these little gnocchi here. And also, if you wanted to do filled gnocchi, yes, you can use any cheese, but I would recommend always using a hard cheese. So you could use cheddar, you could use Parmesan, Pecorino, any hard British cheese, but soft cheeses, like what I would do if you wanted to use like mozzarella, you'd stuff it inside instead of actually using it in the dough, because it might make the dough too wet. There we go. They're getting bigger as I go along. That always happens. It's hard to keep it, but I'm not using a weighing scale. Life's too short. They'll all cook in a similar way. Okay. Now I'm starting to think that my saucepan isn't big enough, but there we go. We can do them in batches, it's all good. So yeah, someone's asking about stuffing them, yeah. So it's easier to do actually if you go get a bit more flour, and if you get a piece of gnocchi. I'm gonna go wash my hands because I get a bit gross now. I considered putting music on for this, but I stopped paying for Spotify, and I didn't want anyone to have to go through adverts because times are hard. Right. So if you get a piece of gnocchi and flatten it, and then you can basically push any filling you want. Something like mozzarella is good because you can get a blob of it, put it inside, and then just slowly wrap it around. And then be careful then, making sure that you wrap it around, give it a quick roll, and then put it down. And it shouldn't leak out. If they're this big, it should be fine. Cool, so I think we've got to the end of the dough. So I've made here 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, which is a good amount for 2 people. You're gonna have to fight over the last one. So I've got this pan of water. I've salted it already. I don't know why I did that. You know what salted water looks like. I'm just going to put the heat up. So it's going to be a nice rolling boil. And then I'm going to start dropping the gnocchi in. So let me just keep going. I'm not going to overcrowd them. I think the issue can be when you put too many in at once and they all stick together. So just make sure that you've got enough to kind of cover the bottom of the pan and you're fine. And the good thing about fresh gnocchi like this is that you know they're done when they start to float to the top. So it's easy enough to know. So I'm going to leave those for now. And then while we're the gnocchi's cooking, I'm going to get on with the herb butter. Oh, these electric hobs. Right, so the herb butter is really simple. We've got 1 tablespoon of salted butter already. And I'm going to put that on a high heat. And I'm going to leave it until it goes golden, almost like brown. Yeah, my gnocchi are massive, I can see that. And also they look even bigger when you cook them, so they kind of puff up. So yeah, they'll be quite big. But who didn't like a big gnocchi? So yeah, they don't have to be too high. They need to be on a constant boil. You don't want it to be simmering. You want it to be well boiled, but also you don't want the water to go over. So I can't really show you because I've stuck my phone to the wall, but it's kind of a rolling boil. So my butter is melting now, and I basically want to show it. Let me get this so I can show you. So this is the gnocchi bubbling away. So yeah, interesting about the gnocchi with the potato. I think this is actually classed as, it's something called nudi. It's spelled G-N-U-D-I, and I think it means naked in Italian, but it's basically gnocchi where the filling becomes the actual gnocchi. So all you really have is flour on the outside to keep it together. So it's technically not gnocchi, it's nudi, but everyone knows gnocchi and, you know, whatever. Let's see what they look like. But yeah, that's basically right. And also there's your butter. So we're melting the butter. And we want that to kind of go a bit of a golden brown. And then we're going to add to that the sage. You can use any hard herb you've got lying around, or you could use basil as well. Thyme, rosemary, sage. And these are really massive leaves, but I'm going to keep them whole because when you cook them in butter, they go really nice and crispy, and they're really nice to eat. Like, you can eat a whole one, whereas I would not eat that raw. So the gnocchi are doing well. I'm just gonna, oh, they're starting to, if you can see, they're starting to come to the surface. I'm gonna put this light on, which is a good sign. You could definitely do it with dairy-free butter. I'm not sure how it would go, I'm not sure how it would actually go brown, because I think they're made of vegetable oil, but you could definitely melt it and then add the sage. So my butter's melting nicely. It's starting to froth, and as soon as you get a little bit of brown in there, it will happen quite quickly. You add the sage in straight away. So the gnocchi now, I've got to the stage where they are coming to the top, which is really good. So I'm going to actually drain them now because we want to add them to the butter. So I'm going to remove that. So we've got a little beurre noisette going on here. And I'm going to add the sage. It's going to crackle, which is nice. Oh, sage cocktail sounds so good. Big up the sage crew. Right, there we go. So it's starting to sizzle nicely now. And it will crisp up after it's come out. So at the moment you can see it's gone nice and brown. Now that we've got our nice brown butter, bit of sage in it, I'm going to add the gnocchi, which have now puffed up. I think they were cooking for about a minute or two. There we go. So you can see now, they're just basically, we want to get them a little bit brown. But they've already done their cooking. So you just want to basically coat them in the brown butter. And if you remember to keep it, like I didn't, you can add some pasta water. Actually, I think I might have a bit. No, got a little bit here. So that will emulsify, and it will start to make a little bit of a sauce, which is really good. So at this stage, we're ready to plate up. So we've got our ginormous gnocchi here. This is really good as a starter or a main course. Then I am just going to put the sage on top. There we go. Oh, don't forget, all important. Oh, it smells so good in here. All it needs is actually a little bit of garlic would be quite nice in with the butter. So I'm going to pour that on. So you want all the butter on there, because that's what